ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Friday, February 3rd. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I am your host, Paul Swann. Well rested and ready to go after last night's Marshall victory over App State. We're going to hear from Andrew Taylor in a few minutes from last night's post game, also from Taevion Kinsey, and we'll get Dan D'Antoni's comments. We've also got your reaction to the game, and we're going to open up the text line now, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also, I got last night's text as well. This was the strangest thing. So last night we're doing this show, and I didn't get that many texts. I thought, okay, this is strange. It's an earlier game. I don't know what's going on here. But maybe, just maybe, nobody is really into texting tonight because, Marshall won, got the victory. And I get home, and I'm putting my computer up for the night and just checking on a few things. And then all of a sudden, I get a rush of text in. It was strange. And so I get a lot of your comments. And if you were up last night, you got a text from me, from our text line. I made sure to let you know I got the text. And we had several comments, and I'm going to get to every one of them. And if you want to add to the game reaction, you can do so. And again, the text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I appreciated everyone tuning in last night and texting, so we're going to get to all of that. You took the time to text me last night. I'm going to take the time to make sure that we read them. And, of course, good news, Marshall women get a victory. Thundering Herd now on a 4-game winning streak. Tony Kemper's squad getting the victory over App State. I'm excited for the Marshall women because they are continuing to take care of business. 4 players finished in double figures with that win over App State. Rochella Scott had 22. Abby Beeman had 13. Mahogany Matthews had 12. And Cindy Scott had 11. The last time 4 Marshall women's players finished in double digits was back on March 5th of 2022. So the women get the victory over App State. The men get the victory on the road against App State. And I love Dan. He said they put a lot of promotion into this game, promoting it. They had 2,685. That was the crowd. That's pretty low. Dan came on last night on the postgame and said, hey, they doubled their crowd. The Herd came to town, and they doubled their crowd. Is that really, really the best you can do at App State crowd-wise? 2,685. And App State's a pretty good team, actually. They're not bad at all. They're a good team. And they got a lot of students. They have more students than Marshall has. It's a bigger school enrollment-wise, I believe. So, and it's Boone. It's Boone, North Carolina. It's not as if you're just going to hop in your car and go do a lot of things, or if you're going to have a lot of things to do. It is the epitome of a college town, right? I mean, that's not bad. That's nothing negative. It's just, here it is. This is the epitome of a college town. And you would think that I would try to get the students involved as much as I possibly can. I really have to give credit to Marshall. The students are becoming more of a factor at Marshall home games. I love seeing that. For years, I wondered where the students were, and I'm not going to lie to you, it aggravated me because as a kid in junior high, high school, I loved Huck's Herd. I was a big fan of the Herd, especially during the Rick Huckabee years. Huck's Herd. Loved the Herd. So when I finally became a Marshall student, and Lee Moon was the athletic director then, and I actually asked Mr. Moon, I was like, hey, my first time actually getting to sit down in this area, where do I sit? And Lee was a really nice guy and pointed me out in the right direction. I'll never forget that. Years later, got a chance to talk to Lee in a different capacity, and he's great. But as a someone growing up in Huntington, I was finally excited. Hey, I got student tickets. I get to go to I get to sit really close, and I don't have to sit up in then Herd heaven anymore. I don't have to sit up really high. I can be down here. So I'm hoping that the students can turn this around and be a little bit more present. But back to the original point, 2,685? They can do better. They can do better. So we're going to hear from Marshall players Andrew Taylor and Taevion Kinsey, Dan D'Antoni. Short conversations with us last night, those of us that were on the Zoom. So we'll play all of that. We'll get your comments as well, 304-396. Talk 304-396-8255. Text lines already activated. Our first text from today. This is Michael from Marion, Ohio. He wants to know if there's any word on a defensive coordinator for football, and can basketball win the Sun Belt tournament? I'll go with the basketball question first. Yes, Marshall can win the basketball tournament. We'll have a better idea what the Herd looks like against Louisiana on Saturday. But yes, I'll be more confident after a road win on Saturday. But yes, I think Marshall is among 4-5 teams that can win the Sun Belt tournament. And I don't have any hesitation saying that. I was even looking at team rankings. I get the email from team rankings. And Marshall is projected to maybe have a 30% chance to win the Sun Belt tournament, but looking at the numbers, team rankings basically say that Marshall is the best team in the Sun Belt right now. We're going to find out. Also, team rankings predict that Marshall will lose only 2 more games in Sun Belt play. Go in as a number 2 seed in the Sun Belt tournament. I'm hoping that things play out. Marshall can go in as the number 1 seed, but number 2 seed will be fine with me. But yes, I do believe Marshall can win the Sun Belt tournament. Will the Herd do it? And we'll find out. We'll do that together. But I believe Marshall can go in there and win that tournament. That's the most confident I've felt in a while about saying that. 100% believe that Marshall can win the Sun Belt tournament. Now, your first question. Any word on a defensive coordinator for football? Actually, you want to go back and get his full comments, and we ran it on the show a couple of nights ago. I was at Marshall for National Signing Day, and that was one of the questions that came up and they needed to be addressed. And Coach Huff talked about that. They've got to finalize what they're trying to do, but they have identified the candidate or candidates, not ruling out a promotion from within and not ruling out an outside hire. So Coach Huff addressed that a little bit more. I'm going to refer you, if you want to hear his full comments, to the Wednesday edition of the show, and we post that podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or what you could do if you want to try to keep track of everything we do is get the app. Go to the App Store. You can start by going to WRVC.com, and we have the links to the stores for your Android or your iOS device, and you can download the app or search on your App Store for ESPN 94.1 and AM 930, and there's a tab where you can actually listen to the podcast. So if you have a chance and can listen to the show live, you can do that, or if you miss it, you can get the actual podcast later on in the app. So it's pretty cool. Check it out. But I will refer you to his full comments from Wednesday because he goes on for a moment or two about that. But he said basically, yes, they're going to have something soon. They're waiting for the whole National Signing Day period to have passed because there were some some prior commitments with the candidate or candidates they're looking at or talking to, and he did not rule out an in-house promotion, and he did not rule out – I know he's covering all his bases with that, but it could be someone in-house. I think they're looking both places, in-house and outside as well. I mean, you got to get the right guy for the defensive coordinator position. That's going to be a huge, huge position for the Thundering Herd, especially with National Signing Day. You look at the class, a little defensive heavy. So you're going to have to make the right decision there and make the best possible choice you can. So hopefully with Marshall's prestige on the defensive side of the ball growing, maybe you're going to attract someone that will be just as good, if not better, than Lance Guidry. My hope is you can always find someone just as good, but if you can, try to elevate the position, and that's going to be a tall task, especially with what Coach Guidry did with the defensive side of the ball. Basketball continues. Let's talk about the Herd's win against App State. We'll also get your text in. I've got plenty to begin with, and we're going to do that at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've got last night's feedback, as I mentioned earlier, if you weren't with us at the very top of the show. For some reason, at 11:07 p.m. last night, I get all your texts. So we're going to go over those. We're going to run down what happened last night with the Thundering Herd. It was a great performance from Andrew Taylor, Taevion Kinsey with 15 as well, and the Thundering Herd getting the victory. We'll talk about that with you. Then we'll hear from you on tonight's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Marshall's victorious yesterday on the road against App State, 66-59. Thundering Herd did it with a standout effort from Andrew Taylor, 21 points, shot 7 of 15. I'm sorry, 7 of 16. I don't want to shortchange him there, but 3 of 5 from the three-point line. He was perfect from the free throw line, 4 of 4. And he had 7 assists. Could have got him a few more assists, possibly. Could have got him a double-double, but actually, the Herd only had 9 assists. Taevion Kinsey had the other 2, so 9 assists total for the Thundering Herd. Speaking of Taevion Kinsey, 15 points, 7 of 17 from the field. Missed both of his three-point shots, and he was 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Yeah, this is a typical Marshall game, 66 points. App State had 58. I was expecting a little bit of this pace. I was expecting that. App State's a solid team. Marshall played against a gritty App State Mountaineer squad that held Marshall to 30% shooting in that first half, 10 of 33. The Herd also 4 of 16 from the three-point line for 25%. Second half, 12 of 29, so a little better, 41%. And the three-point shot about the same percentage-wise, 25%. Marshall was 3 of 12, so the good news is Marshall was able to hit free throws, 8 of 10 in that second half, 7 of 8 in the first half for 15 of 18 line. It was 83.3%. I'm good with that. Marshall had an 11-0 run. That was the biggest run of the game. Marshall led by 10 at one point with 3:03 to go. And Marshall, I felt, was good at weathering storms. App State would push, make a run, then Marshall would stop that and answer. So Marshall was good at that. In the game, Marshall was competitive in the paint, 26-24 in favor of App State there as far as points in the paint. Marshall got a lot of its points off turnovers, 19 points off turnovers, only 9 for App State. Second chance points, I like this number, 15-6 in favor of the Herd. Fast break points, I like this as well, 14-4 in favor of Marshall. And then bench points, Marshall got 14 bench points. And again, this is a low-scoring game. App only got 7. Foul trouble hindered the Herd a great deal. Micah Hand-Logden at one point had to sit out a lot of the game, picked up some early fouls. Also, Obina Anachili-Killen had some foul issue as well. Hand-Logden for the game had 4 points, 2 of 3. Missed his lone free throw. Had 10 defensive boards and 1 offensive grab for 11. So 11 boards, 21 minutes 2 blocks, by the way. That's not bad. That's not bad at all for 21 minutes. Imagine if he would have been out there another 10, 11 minutes. Could you imagine the performance there? And, of course, Obinna Anachili Killen. Got to keep him out there. 22 minutes. He was 1 of 5. 4 points. Missed all 3 of his 3-point shots. Every time I say I don't like that shot, then he comes back and hits it. So I'm going to keep doing that. Every time I say it doesn't fail. I don't want to see Obinna Anachili Killen taking those 3-point shots. I don't want to see it. And then he comes back as if he's heard me and he's going to prove me wrong, and he hits them. And then I got to talk about how, hey, that was great. He hit those 3-point shots. He's a defensive guy with offensive potential. That makes sense. Offensive potential. It's a bonus, but you got to get him out there for the defensive side of things. He had 5 rebounds in the contest, and he also had a block. Marshall had 10 steals, total 4 blocks in this one. As I mentioned, Andrew Taylor, solid performance from him last night. Sometimes it's not going to be Taevion Kinsey leading the way. It's going to be someone else like Andrew Taylor. And we caught up with him after the game, and he talked about how this one played out, which was different from the last time these two teams met.
It's a good road win. We came out a little bit flat. We picked it up a lot quicker than we usually do. Just the energy, on the road. We're 33,000 or 3,300 feet in the air over here, so some dudes feeling lightheaded and stuff. But we kept the energy, kept it up in the second. We came out. They hit a lot of big threes in the first. They had that big dude who was battling down low in the second as well, just hitting all those jump hooks and stuff. And then towards the end of the game, we just got into our stuff. Get it today, me or Cam, let us do the work and get it to the bigs if they're open and finish the game out. That's what
I'm 19 wins on the year. The second time you've seen App State this year, how is this matchup different than the first?
I feel like, anytime you play a team the second time around, it's going to be harder. I feel like we both kind of scouted each other and we both had to, do some things in the flight this game. You come off the screen and it's not being played the same way as last time. So you got to adapt to that, throughout the game. And I think that's why we came out in the second and, both teams probably started picking it up offensively.
Now you look forward to a Saturday night matchup with Louisiana. That one on paper looks to be pretty good. How excited are you to go see another one of the top teams in the Sun Belt on the road?
Oh, for sure. I think all of us look forward to coming here and going to Louisiana just because, it probably started in football with the football rivalry. And then, we want to keep it going in basketball. So we came here and got a good road dub, and we look forward to doing it in Louisiana as well.
Louisiana is an important game. Marshall taking on one of the two teams that occupy the top spot. Marshall is right behind the leaders with a third blemish on the Sun Belt record. Hopefully will give Louisiana its third blemish and make it a little bit more interesting at the top. Southern Miss and Louisiana leading the way, followed by Marshall. And that was Andrew Taylor with 21 points, 7 of 16 from the field. As I mentioned, Taevion Kinsey doesn't have to lead on the scoreboard. He still was an important part of this one, 7 of 17 for 15 points. He missed his 2 3-point shots. Andy had a few more attempts from the free throw line. Taevion was 1 of 2 from the 3-point line, but he also had 5 rebounds and 2 assists. As I mentioned earlier, 7 assists from Andrew, 2 from Taevion, 9 assists total in the game. So not a lot of scoring to begin with here, 66 points. Not a Marshall-like score. Taevion Kinsey, always happy, especially when other players are out there. And I asked Taevion the same thing I asked Andrew, just to kind of how did it play out, break it down for me, as this one was the second time these two teams met. How was it different from the last time?
Kind of a little bit different. We're on the road. I would say that's the biggest difference. But for the most part, I feel like we controlled the game pretty well tonight. They were physical. It was a physical battle. I'll let you know that now. I'm pretty sure from everybody who was watching the game could tell it was a physical battle. But we stayed in control. I feel like we did what we do best, and we played Marshall basketball. We made a couple mistakes that they capitalized on, but that's some things that we have to fix, and we know we have to clean up. We got Louisiana next, so we're glad to have this one under our belt. And we're gonna move on to the next one.
Taevion,
Are you
it
guys
seemed like-
really? Go ahead, Luke.
Taevion, it seemed like every time they came within, 2 or 3 points, you guys had an answer. Where did you find that answer from?
Just playing team basketball, moving the ball. That was one of our keys today, just having an athletic ball. At the beginning, we weren't running in our transition that we do best. That's what we do best. That's when we're at our best. And I think in the second half, we got out. We played great defense underneath the bucket. We got rebounds, and we kicked it to our guards who were already out up the lanes. And we got trailers with Cam, and when you leave him open, it's gonna be a long night for you. And then Drew had a hell of a game today. He ran the table for us very well. So I think everybody answered when they were called on. All our guys who came in and played minutes off the bench, they did extremely well tonight. And this was a great team win.
Tay, the temptation when you guys are maybe you go up by 9 or so, maybe you get a little quick with the shot. It seems like when you get your offense going back, like Luke said, you guys stymied every run they had and started to take better shots.
We just had to get into what we do best. Sometimes we tend to get caught up in playing their game, and we play our game and we play into their game. But when we just play our game and focus on us, then it ends up being a good game for us. And I think that's what we did in the second half. We slowed down. We got the shots that we wanted to, the shots that everybody knows that they can take and make. And I think we did that well in the second half, and we ended up walking away with the win.
Okay, you mentioned Louisiana. That one's up next. Obviously you guys saw them last year, but this matchup looks to be pretty big in terms of Sun Belt Conference standings as we go down the stretch.
And we're on the road. We know they're a good team. We played those guys. We know they're going to be physical. We know they're going to bring energy, and I think it's a battle that everybody's wanted to see for the longest in the Sun Belt. I'm not taking away from any other teams, but I think this is going to be a very good game. But our guys, we're going to be ready. We're going to go over our scout tomorrow, lock in. We got to put this one behind us. We got the win, so we don't got to worry about this one anymore, and we're moving on to the next one. The road trip's not over. Job's not done. We got to finish it up.
Job's not done. Taevion Kinsey on last night's victory over App State. Dan D'Antoni, we're going to get his thoughts when we continue, and we're going to run down what you had to say about this one. Text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm your host, Paul Swann, and you're listening to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We roll on with today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I am your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's show. Going to hear from Dan D'Antoni in just a few moments. I promise we get to the text line, and we're going to do so now. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And if you weren't with me earlier, yesterday during our post-game show, we do that after every Marshall game. All the texts came in after I went home. So whatever the hiccup is, we've got that cleared up. Texts are flowing through now. So a lot of these are from last night, and I promised everyone if you wrote in, you would get on the air, your text would get through, and let's go ahead and get some of those in now. And you can add to this at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. First up from our text line, texter wrote in and said, probably the best coach game this year, and congrats to the Sheriff for a superior game. If only Han Logden would shoot the 10-footer a bit more, we'd be unstoppable if our opponents had to defend him too, maybe before the tourney. And again, that's for all you do week in and week out. I think that's probably meant to read, and thanks for all you do week in and week out. If that's for me, thank you. Again, I'm reading everything as it came in. Also from the text line, great win. They got to quit missing so many foul shots. Stay out of foul trouble with their bigs. Can't believe D'Antonio laughed at that, though. His two bigs set out not only for the first half, but as well as the second half. If they had lost, he probably wouldn't have even done the interview. Hurd can't afford missing bunch of threes, foul shots, and getting in foul trouble down the stretch. It will be costly. And then in all caps, proud of the team effort, the grit, and was excited when David Early got in early, no pun intended, and he played well. Also from our text line, a solid win against a quality team on the road, especially when you have an off-night shooting. The Herd did other things well, like play defense. Don't like the black unis, especially when that's the primary color of your opponent, but love the warm-ups. Go Herd. Let's win number 20 on Saturday. We've got more of your text to go through. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. But first up, Dan D'Antoni did show up for the interview. He's never blown us off. I'll give him that. He's never pushed us aside and like, I'm not dealing with you guys tonight. Dan's always been good to talk to. He might not be happy about the win or the loss, or how it came out, whatever. But he's always been able to come to a post game and talk to us. The thing that probably gets us the most sometimes is when you're on the road, the setups are not the very best, and internet sometimes isn't spectacular. I mean, I don't know what the internet looks like in Boone, North Carolina when you're on the road traveling, but that's probably the only thing that ever would really prevent us from getting something like that on the road at least. But Dan was with us last night, was pretty excited, pretty happy. He was in a jovial mood. He was having some fun with us before we get to the actual part of the interview we're going to play. But Dan was having a good time, and let's hear his thoughts. I even asked him a little bit about the foul situation, so you get that response from him as well. But this is Dan D'Antoni reacting to the win.
Well, we finally got about 8 or 10 minutes with Mike and Bean in game. You know, first half, they set most of it, came out. Within 10, 15 seconds, Mike is back down on the pitch. And then turned around twice, no Bean is following. So we just didn't play with our big guys. You know, I thought David, though, gave us some really good minutes. Jacobs wasn't really himself. White gave me some pretty good minutes. So, you know, when that happens, get that early foul trouble, and they have long periods sitting on the bench, you can win. Team that won the last 6 out of 8, won the last 3 out of 4. It's a good win.
Coach, how do you try to settle these guys down so you can maybe keep them on the floor a little bit more? I know foul trouble is going to happen, but you have a magic answer for that?
Well, I have a magic answer, but they might find me if I said it. But, you know, they just got to, because they weren't real big hard fouls. You know, they were called, but they weren't hard fouls. And, you know, maybe we got to watch our hands a little bit. I don't know. But, you know, they were called. So we'll look and see what we can do to help them out. But, you know, I just didn't see a hard foul on any of the 3. I think Obina, one time he reached in there hard. But other than that, I don't know. We just have to get better position, you know, just play a little bit better.
Coach, you put this one behind you, another road game at Louisiana Saturday night. That's a big one in terms of conference standings.
Well, it's funny. They had double their numbers here tonight, normal. For what I understand, they've done a lot of promotion for this ball game. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. But good thing is that people want to see good basketball. They know we're coming into town. We got one team that's going to play good and usually makes the other team play better. So you're going to get a good ball game, going to play hard. It is meaningful. It always helps when it's meaningful and as far as standing goes. But good ball club down there. We played them at home last year, played them pretty well. And it's basically the same team. So we just got to go down and take our game again. It's not so much about what they do at our game. And that they got posted in your locker room. They got posted on both ends of the court. They got posted going out 3,333 feet. And I'm telling you, it does take a little of the air out of your lungs. And I didn't think we were as sharp, especially affected people who are not real real strong yet physically. Jacob got affected by it. And, we just got to get, it's a good win to get out of here with that team. It's hot. Let's go down and see what happens. We're playing to the end of the season anyway, every team. So we want to win all we can. Love to win the conference, believe me. But you know what? We're capable of winning the conference tournament too. So we want to do everything we can to win the conference and then move on into the conference tournament. It's one game at a time. And this next one's a big.
Next one is a big one. You're taking on one of the two co-leaders, top spot in the Sun Belt. You want to get positioning. You want to try to get that number one spot, but to do so, you're going to have to win out, and you're going to have to knock off some of these teams as well ahead of you and behind you to make sure that you've got yourself in the best position possible. That's Dan D'Antoni. I could tell from his face, I had to tread lightly there because, again, you don't want to lead a coach into a conversation about officiating. You don't want to deliberately set up a coach to talk about how bad the officiating was or anything like that. You want to ask about, how do you keep these guys out of foul trouble? But at the same time, officiating is a sticky, sore subject with coaches, and they can get in trouble with it. So, hey, what do you got? What can you do about that? And it's good to see that when those guys were out there, they were able to contribute. Hopefully they can stick around for the Louisiana game. Our phone number to text in is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I've got more of your texts coming up. We will get to those, and we will look ahead to tomorrow's matchup. Marshall taking on Louisiana. That's when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
The Marshall.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive. It's Friday. Hope you're set to have a great weekend. We're going to be back together tomorrow on ESPN 94.1 AM 930 with our pregame coverage. Marshall taking on Louisiana. We're going to go on the air at 7 o'clock, so we're going to be together a little later tomorrow evening. Not too much. Hour different than what we're used to, so we'll have fun together here as we get you set tomorrow for Marshall basketball, and then right back here after it's all said and done to talk about it, and we'll give you the opportunity to do so at 304-396-TALK. That's our text line, 304-396-8255. I'm your host, Paul Swann, of this edition of The Drive. I am the Paul Swann in The Drive with Paul Swann. Let's get back to the text line, and I'll give you that number one more time. Can never give it out too many times. That way you have it. Program it in your phone, by the way. Just go ahead. Put that in your phone now. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. From our text line, texter wrote in and said, "Hey, Paul, I like our team, and we are only going to get better. Our defense is pretty solid. Honestly, I think we could be the best in the Sun Belt Conference. Feel good about getting in a postseason tournament. Is it too early to compare which team is better, Elmore his senior year or this team? What do you say?" Great job, rock on, go Herd. I appreciate that. That's from Holmes. Let's ease up here just a minute. If we're going to compare teams to teams, this team has got to win the Sun Belt tournament and get to the NCAA. That's going to be the standard. The standard is, can the team get to the NCAA tournament? And to do so, the easiest path is winning the Sun Belt tournament. And so if Marshall can do that and get to the NCAA tournament, then we can have that conversation. This team or the Elmore team. I know there's only a few years separation, but that Elmore team did get to the tournament, did win a tournament game. That hadn't happened for Marshall before. So that was something. Now this team's got to get to the NCAA tournament and win a tournament game and maybe win a second tournament game. That would be something to see Marshall basketball be able to do. Start building upon some of that past success here. I mean, Marshall for a long time was a basketball school. I think that's just fair to say. Marshall had some nice success. Not NCAA tournament success, but Marshall had some nice success over the years in basketball. And so if this team can win the Sun Belt tournament in its first year as a conference member, that would be fantastic. And then if you can get into the NCAA tournament and win a game, I think then we can have that conversation. Until then, I think it's too soon to have that talk. We still have to have the talk between who's the better player, John Elmore, Taevion Kinsey. Which one's the better player? That talk's coming soon as Taevion is inching up the ladder to catch what John Elmore did scoring for the Thundering Herd. It's going to happen soon. I think it's going to happen. Tavion's got to score more than 15 points, though. Hopefully he can balance that out tomorrow with another outstanding performance. From our text line, if they're going to bring back the striped warm-up pants for nostalgia's sake, they should also get back to serving hot Dr. Pepper with lemon at the concession stands like they did years ago. First of all, you should always have Dr. Pepper at the concession stands. Always. And I think I'm going to need to talk to A.D. Spears on some of these issues here. I'm going to have this conversation with A.D. Spears because there should be hot Dr. Pepper with lemon. I like that. I'm thumbs up. I endorse that. Bring that. Also, there should be Dr. Pepper in the media room. This is a me issue, not a you issue, but I'm bringing it up. There should be Dr. Pepper in the media room, and there should be zero sugar Dr. Pepper in the media room. Since Pepsi products are the product of the land on campus, I want zero sugar. I want Dr. Pepper and zero sugar Dr. Pepper. And then I want zero sugar Mountain Dew. I think those should be options here. But yes, hot Dr. Pepper lemon, I endorse that. I like that. That's a great beverage choice. So let's bring the hot Dr. Pepper back with the lemon. Let's do that. And then let's bring in some new modern flavors. Like one, always have Dr. Pepper. That's a classic flavor. You need to always have that. And then you need to have zero sugar Dr. Pepper and zero sugar Mountain Dew. If we're pushing it, I want a zero sugar cherry. Again, I got to stay in the Pepsi line. So zero sugar Pepsi cherry. I'm not a Pepsi drinker, but I will definitely take a zero sugar cherry, a Pepsi cherry, which is a fine drink. It compares nicely. It's not better than, but it compares nicely to the Coke cherry, especially the Coke Zero cherry. I endorse this. Text line wrote in, sloppy win over crappy state. See what you did there. But a win is a win. Time to rage on the Ragin' Cajuns. Go Herd. It's an important game. I think Marshall knows this. It's an important game. You win this, you close the gap. Not to borrow from Coach Huff, but right now you're chasing Louisiana and Southern Miss standing-wise. If you beat Louisiana, you're chasing Southern Miss. And maybe Southern Miss stumble somewhere, make this a three-way tie. But Marshall's got to win this one tomorrow. It's going to be a game to determine, I think, where Marshall ultimately ends up. This is going to be one of the key games. Because I think Marshall can go out and win the majority of these games. There might be a couple of games left on the schedule where they're going to be dogfights. James Madison, for example, could be a dogfight. But, Marshall is projected, according to a couple of services that I'm following, like Team Rankings, for example, has them finishing second, meaning getting a second seed in the tournament, projects them as the best team in the Sun Belt. They have them finishing second right now and projects them to win every game moving forward in league play in the regular season except two. So have them finish second in the league. That's not terrible in your first year, but if you can get that one spot and you can win the regular season crown, that's going to be a nice accomplishment for Dan D'Antoni, especially after last season where, let's be honest, some of you not naming names, some of you maybe thought it was time for Dan to step aside and move on from what D'Antoni basketball looks like at Marshall University. That doesn't seem to be the case right now, as Marshall enjoying possibly getting its 20th win. And that's going to do it for this edition. We're going to be back here on Saturday. Marshall is facing off against Louisiana. It'll be game number 2 of the Marshall day-night home-road doubleheader of sorts. The Marshall women are in action on Saturday against Georgia State. So if you can, go support Tony Kemper's squad. Be back here for tomorrow pregame, 7 o'clock on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Also going to be on 93.7, The Dog.